Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm. Today I'm going to show you how to make a child-size apron. This is a really simple project, and this is a really versatile project. You can use a lot of scrap fabrics. I always recommend using cotton. I've cut out several that I'm going to be making from various fabrics I needed to use up. I also am using some vintage linens like scraps of tablecloths and some pillowcases that I had that will also work well. You can do this with a pocket or without a pocket. To begin with, you're going to need a 22-inch wide by 14-inch long rectangle, and you're going to need another rectangle to serve as a combo waistband tie that is 60 inches long and about 3 inches wide. If your rectangles come in smaller or larger, that's fine. Like I said, this is a very versatile project. If your tie comes in like at 54 inches instead of 60, that'll work. If your bigger rectangle comes in at 20 inches wide by 12 inches long, that'll work. You just want to aim for those measurements for a nice size, child size apron. You could also cut a square or a rectangle for a pocket, or even a circle or a heart, whatever little thing you would like to do. On this vintage linen one that I have, I didn't have enough fabric, so I have another vintage fabric that it's the same color family. It's, you know, a mixture of prints there that I'm going to be using. And I also went ahead and cut some, I had some lace, various laces that I wanted to use, so I matched up some pieces of lace just to put on the top of the pocket. That's an extra thing. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. So for starters, we have the rectangle that we're going to be using for the apron. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go around all 4 of the rectangle edges, and I'm just going to zigzag them. I'm going to fold it over about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to zigzag it. And this is so I don't have any, I'm going to fold all of these over again, and I'm not going to have any raw seams on anything. Okay, so I have the all 4 edges. I have just zigzagged the edge 1/4 under, so I have no raw edges. Now I'm going to choose one of the long sides to be the top of the apron. It doesn't matter which side. And then on the other 3 sides, I'm going to switch to a straight stitch. You could use zigzag if you wanted to. And I'm going to fold that seam over by about 1/2 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch, whatever you would like to do. Like I said, this is a versatile project. Alright, and I'm going to go around the 3 sides. It's going to be the 2 short sides and the bottom, which is now the bottom. One of the long sides is now going to be the bottom. And I'm going to use a straight stitch, and I'm going to make this hem. Got my loose threads off here. Now I like to do a lot of hand stitching and doing like blanket stitch on the edges. You can do whatever you want. You could even hem it by hand. You can do this whole project by hand if you want. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to gather this top part by hand. Let me get my thread and I will show you how to do that. I want to gather the front of the apron so it's about 14 inches wide when it's done gathering. So I've double threaded, button thread works great too, a double thread needle, and I've made it about 16 inches long. So that way I get a little bit of wiggle room to use my needle and everything. So what I'm going to do on the top, the edge that I did in my top edge that I didn't fold under and I didn't sew with the straight stitch, it's just the zigzagged edge, that's going to be my top. I'm going to put my needle in, and I want to make a stitch around the outside edge. Now none of this is going to show. All of this at the top, this top ruffle will be hidden in your waistband. So I have made a stitch. I've locked it in. Now, what I'm going to do is you want to go in your fabric and then out of your fabric, in your fabric, out of your fabric. It doesn't matter how big or how little it is. You can get sort of going here. In and out, in and out, in and out. And the important thing is you want this to be a running stitch. That means you don't want to make a backward stitch or anything like that, because any stitch like that is going to lock it. And you want it to be able to be, see, like I'm pulling it through, that's what's going to gather it. So you just want to in, out, in, out, in, out, all the way. And as I'm doing that, I'm pushing it along. I'm not locking the stitch. And I can see it gathering underneath my finger as I sew. Every once in a while, I'm going to reach the point where my needle fills up, and we need to pull it through. Don't pull it super tight. This is how you hand gather anything you want to hand gather. This is how you do it. In, out, in, out. You can do it pretty fast. This is how, if you're gathering skirts or curtains or ruffles for pillows, this is how you would do it. So just in, out, just really a really simple thing. It's a little time consuming if you're doing a lot of ruffle or if you're doing a lot of gathering. There you go. Okay, now I've put it through. So now you see that there is a gather at the top. So I'm going to sort of evenly space it. I'm going to use my ruler on my machine here. Like I said, I want to aim for about 14 inches wide. Remember, it started out as 22 inches. And I'm just going to do my stitch around the, make a couple of stitches around the outside to lock that gather in. And I'm going to cut it. Now the top of my apron is gathered. So you can see the apron is starting to come into fruition here. So now what are we going to do? That's ready. Now we have this waistband. I'm going to fold it in half because I want to find the center. Okay, fold it in half. Then I'm going to mark the center with a pin. Okay, that's my center. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my apron. I'm going to mark the center with a pin. Again, this doesn't have to be, you know, super perfect. It's, like I said, a very versatile project. Okay. Now, at this point, ordinarily, I would be ironing everything. But for the expediency of the video, I'm not going to go run and iron it right now. So, I want to line up my pins. So I have my centers. I'm going to fold under this edge. This is going to be the waistband. I'm going to fold it under a little bit. You can do a separate hemming of this if you want to. I try to do it all at once so I can just have one seam here. Fold it over. I'm going to pin that front part, and I'm going to turn it over in the back. And I'm going to fold it under again. Going to match it up. That pin out. Now I'm going to lift this pin out of here, and I'm going to pin it all the way through. I'm going to sew mine from the top instead of the back, so I want to make sure the pin goes all the way through. Now I'm going to go along this top, and I'm going to fold under. See, this is where if you go press it, you fold the edges under and you press it, then all you have to do is pin it. It makes it a lot easier. So I would suggest, if you're doing this at home, to go iron your waistband so where you're going to sew it under will already be sewed under. So that I'm just folding that, matching it there. So now it's all folded. because that's going to be your hem. So I'm trying to hold all this together here. Doubling, making sure it's all folded back there. So you can see it's folded under here. So before I mess with the ties, I'm just going to do my whole waistband first. Get it all under there. I'm going to try to line up your front and back folds as much as possible. Okay, all right, my little waistband is now pinned and ready. So now I'm going to pins in a triangle. Just fold it like a triangle. This is going to give me a triangle end here. All right, now I'm going to pin that. All right, now I'm going to go back up here. And I'm going to fold in my edges. Like I said, again, if you're ironing this is where it makes things simplified. Fold it under, pin it. You want to do this for your entire tie. This is now the tie of the apron. There's our tie. See, we have it folded under and pinned. And it's a continuation of our fold under and pin on our waistband. Okay, I'm going to do the other side. Now my tie and my waistband are all pinned. So you can do this zigzag or you can do this straight stitch. I'm going to do it a straight stitch. You can choose. You want to put your, using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You might want to just give it a check. Make sure you got your edges lined up. If you're using zigzag, you will almost always be sure to catch both sides. Trim my strings off. And there we have a little apron. So you can see that's the back. And I would iron this again at this point. Usually I iron, what I will do is, since I'm making a lot of these, I will hem all of them. I have about 30 or 40 cut out. I'll hem them all, and then I'll iron. And then I'll iron all the waistbands to go with it and pin them each, fold them under, pin them each, and then I'll sew them, and then I'll iron the whole thing again, and then I'll have them, so it's like an assembly line. So that's the little apron. If you wanted to do a pocket, you could sew the pocket on wherever you want it. Fold it. You just fold the edges under. Pin it. Iron it. Make sure you iron it. It's so much easier if you iron the pocket, and then pin the pocket where you want it, and sew it on, just on the top stitches. I usually do like another top stitch just to make it, you know, lay better, unless I'm going to do some kind of hand stitching to it. And so what you could also do, cute buttons on there. There's all kinds of, you know, now there's ABC buttons or little scene pictures. You could crochet a flower on there. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do hand crochet. Hand embroidery. You can do crochet too if you want to do that. I'm going to do like a blanket stitch all the way around the edges. And that's the cute little apron. Super simple, super fast, and it's a great project if you're teaching a child how to hand gather for the first time. It's a great project because it's a small thing, and then after the child is done, she has, or he has a little apron to show for their hand gathering exercise. So I hope this little apron has been a nice small project that can be done quickly to use up scrap fabrics. And I know that's what I'm doing, this whole basket, so I can just use up these small pieces. It's also a good sort of fat quarter kind of project. So thanks for joining me today. It's been Angie from Canterbury Farm.